Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to HitScan. So in this video, I want to look at all of the stuff that Jeff Kaplan has said after the big announcement that we got yesterday. That announcement being hero rotation bans on a weekly basis there or thereabouts. More information in this video, but also stuff like the experimental card, general dates of when we're expected to get this stuff, and also other bits and pieces that we may be getting in Overwatch 2. I know you guys just want to keep up to date with the news, so I'm going to go over everything that Jeff said and then give my impressions on the system and all those bits and pieces at the end of this video. So you can click off if you want to. I honestly do not mind. The first post, and I'm going to go through these in order, is probably one of the more important. There's a lot of criticism about the new hero pool system. This is a post that came from Persevere, saying that hero pools are a brave and holistic change. Persevere points out that it's a very dramatic change, and I would agree. And Jeff Kaplan said this: "Thanks for the feedback. Oddly, we're not viewing this change as dramatic, scary, or impactful as the decision to pursue hero limits or our decision to implement role queue. Hero pools will be introduced for Season 21 of competitive play only. Unlike role queue or hero limits, quick play in the arcade will be completely the same as they are today with hero pools. This alone already means the number of affected matches is far less than those two prior systems. Also, we're super open to change with hero pools. If we, the dev team and the community, don't feel like it's a positive change during the season, then we won't bring it back in Season 22. We get a lot of feedback asking for competitive seasons to feel different from one another. Season 20 and 21 will certainly feel different." I do like that. Also, something that we talk about in game design is that there is no one correct answer. Design is all about trade-offs. If the thing that the community decides is the most egregious is a static meta, and they want the dev team to do something about it, we're going to take a step towards change. We can't force the meta to move and not make the game work differently. Last year was great proof that player creativity and balance changes alone weren't enough to move the meta off free fast enough for the community to feel satisfied. The meta would have moved on its own, just slowly, and this is definitely true. Sombra Goat started to really tear apart what Goat's Comp was, then Roll Queue came in just as it did that. We've decided to help you move it along. If there are things we don't like about hero pools, we can change it. Maybe they don't come back for Season 22, maybe they rotate faster, maybe more or less heroes should be in the pool. We'll find out in Season 21. A really important question came in from Milky Peach. Any information yet on how many heroes will be available in a week of hero pool? Jeff says in the first 5 weeks we'll be trying to range to see what feels right. We've architected this system so that we can update the hero pools without the need to patch. So we'll be monitoring feedback very closely, experimenting a bit with the pool and adapting our strategy as time goes on. Which is important to note considering the Overwatch League has a system of banning 1 tank, 1 support and 2 DPS characters. It's interesting to know that that might not be the case for our games that we're playing in competitive. I don't think that people are running away with that theory necessarily, but it's good to know that before people just assume that's the case. It may be different. Another good question from Night Scream: can we get this on the experiment card so we can play with this before Season 21? Jeff says the card won't be ready until the end of Feb. For now, you can test it by not playing Torb for the week. Next week, don't play Symmetra, only playing with you. It's interesting that we have a rough date for the experiment card. We're going to get this roughly at the same time, so March. We have to wait a full month before we get to play this stuff, which kinda sucks. I'm really excited to just get my hands on it personally, but it's good to know that there's a imminent future of Overwatch, I guess. And the meta at the moment isn't too bad, so you can still play the game as normal. One quick thing that I wanted to note on this in particular is that Blizzard have in the past removed heroes completely from the game. Remember when Soldier's camo skin was making him invisible? So Blizzard took him out the game completely. He was unplayable, and I'm pretty sure they did that with a hero recently as well. Might have been Symmetra, I can't remember off the top of my head. Point being that it's not difficult for Blizzard to take heroes out of the game. So this doesn't seem like it's going to be something that's on the PTR, because Blizzard can do this fairly easily from the looks of it. I'm not too sure. Who knows? What asked, would you consider rotating hero pools more than a few days instead? 1 week is far too long. Jeff said yes, we've definitely considered it. Let's try a week and see how it feels, and if we need to make adjustments, we will. But yeah, we've talked about rotating every day. We've also talked about rotating every match. We don't like going longer than a week because we want more heroes played, but open to feedback. There's like 60 days within a season, right? So maybe every 3 days would be a good amount to work for. I'm not too sure. I think a week is fine, but it definitely depends on what heroes get banned. If it's Sigma not being playable for a week, I don't think many people would mind that much. But if Mercy's banned for a week, that could be a huge portion of players that just won't play the game at that point. I'm not saying that's the correct way to play Overwatch, but it's definitely worth bearing in mind that there is a part of the community that will do that. We'll get onto that towards the end of the video. This is really interesting. Would it be possible if we got scoreboards in the future too? Jeff says the discussion is open for Overwatch 2. I think this is really important for the game overall. On the subject of scoreboards, Yoey said more stats would be awesome to have. Jeff says regardless of if we do a different scoreboard for Overwatch 2, we definitely want to do more with stats and provide more statistics to players. Even just having these stats after a game to look at with replays would be really good here. I understand that scoreboard systems could cause toxicity, but let's be honest, that toxicity is already present in the game. It's better to have actual information so people don't assume that, let's say the Baptiste isn't doing any healing, whereas realistically he's doing quite a lot. When you don't have that information, it's easy to point the finger at people that don't deserve it. With the rotation of heroes, Socrates said maybe a seasonal rotation, and Jeff said we talked about a season rotation, but taking a hero out of play for 2 months makes us a bit nervous. Never say never, but it's not our first instinct. Jeff Kaplan said about workshop quality of life changes, I did want to quickly say that all of the stuff such as being able to share replays, anti-cheat systems, everything that Jeff said in that developer update was really good news, and it's nice to know that they're focusing on the game currently as opposed to just hoarding all their resources and content for Overwatch 2. They're still kind of doing that, but this is better than nothing, right? So I'm not going to complain too much. This is a really interesting point, and it was asked by Ryan. Wasn't me though. What is the point of having super fast and drastic balance changes if we are just going to be enforcing weekly metas with hero pools anyway? Really good question that a lot of people had. Jeff Kaplan said historically, even when we have done consistent and dramatic balance changes, it takes the meta a long time to shift. We'd love it if balance or player creativity alone would shift the meta fast enough to meet players' demands. Really solid answer to a very difficult question. If the hero pool functionality has changed, how would that affect the Overwatch League? Jeff says we work closely with Owl on all decisions, we just chat to them. Calder asked if there's going to be a ban protection for popular heroes. Let's say Mercy's banned for 1 week, then played a lot next week. Will she be protected not to be banned for a 3rd week in a row? Jeff says we have curated the list ourselves. We have some philosophies and guidelines we'll be following and evolving as we hear your feedback. Basically making sure that no hero is getting the Horizon treatment as with our map pools, which I find really fascinating that even still Horizon is considered a bad map and Blizzard may want to do something about it. I'm less bothered about Horizon, fix Paris, mostly. I don't miss that map at all. Animosity is certainly on the against when it comes to the hero pool rotation. Jeff said we would never limit the hero pool to just one tank. You'll never be forced to play a single tank such as D.Va as described above. If you love playing all the other tanks, you'll be fine. But it will be a combination of targeting metas that players have been vocally negative about. For example, we're going after Orisa with double barrier or Sigma, and maybe slightly encouraging other playstyles, i.e. more mobile comps, might be fun for a week. I'm sure we'll refine our approach over time. I like the first half of that sentence, I don't like the latter one, just to be quick. I love the idea of, oh, Mei is really strong and really difficult for us to balance at the moment. We're going to take her out for a week and see what happens. Whether she's the problem with a egregious meta or not. But I would hate it. I'd really hate it if Blizzard went, this week is dive week. Play all of the dive heroes. It becomes very gimmicky, and I think the competitive integrity of the game just goes out the window. It turns into Fortnite, and I really don't like that direction that Blizzard could go in. But quarantining certain difficult heroes, like Orisa before, Brigitte when she was launched, Sigma when he was launched, I think is the way to go about it. As opposed to, we want you to play this meta this week. Sorry to go off on a tangent, I said I wouldn't give my opinion, but that's the one thing I don't like about this system. There's going to be no new teaser on the next hero. And when it comes to the future of the PTR, Jeff said that they're still going to use the PTR for major patches that include new heroes or maps. That would be on the PTR and not on the experimental card. And was engineered by people far smarter than he is. Nothing's going to go wrong, right? Smiley face. Smurfs are a big problem, even on PC, but it's even worse on console. Jeff said this, it's a hard problem to solve, but we have some ideas. Any solution is more long-term though, possibly Overwatch 2 or even later. Sorry, I know that's not the answer you necessarily want, but it's actually very complicated with the way consoles work and rules regarding account creation. Who is the best Overwatch waifu? And this is Jeff Kaplan's order. Hammond, Mei, and Tracer. I think Jeff Kaplan and Richard Gere might have something in common then. Maybe they hang out in LA, I don't know. Jeff also said that they're very excited for the experimental card. We've wanted this for so long, it was a ton of work, but it's going to be really cool. Plus, I am super excited to get console players involved with testing changes, which, again, knowing a lot of console players, it's really nice. And the good thing about this is it seems that stuff isn't going to be like patched, it's not going to take up more space on your console, it's going to be server-side and hotfixed, with any luck at least. It's when PTR stuff goes onto the live game that you're going to have a patch. Balances don't look like that's the case anymore. Fuming says, I think the hero pool would be more beneficial for higher ranks, Masters and up. Jeff said we considered having the system only apply to players above a certain rank, Diamond and Masters. It's definitely on our mind. I think a system like this, I'd prefer everybody to have it. I think it's a cool system that could really improve the higher tiers, sure. But it's the grass is greener. If you're playing in gold and your games are trash and you're seeing that GMs are like, this game is so much better without Maying it, you're going to just feel left out, and that's going to be super frustrating and cause even more tension between different sets of ranks. As somebody that's been in both of those ranks, yeah, it's not great. Will Overwatch League affect the hero ban pool of the live game? Jeff said they are separate things that will not affect each other, which is interesting. I'm just going to love breaking down each of the metas and how it works. Jeff says that the thing that he wants the most and is most excited for is your feedback. At this point, let me know below what you think of the hero rotation system. And that's the end of it. There were a couple of other bits and pieces, but nothing really important that I wanted to highlight. I am really interested what you guys think of the system. We've had a lot of stuff to go over, and I don't want this video to be necessarily too long, because I personally don't think that my opinion on hero pool is that important or stand out. It's not a hot take. I think that, to begin with, I thought it was an awful system. When I first heard about it, I was like, oh god, no, this sounds like a terrible idea. I felt that it was rude, pretty much of Blizzard to go, hero bans is a bad idea if it's run by the community, however, it's a better idea if we have full control over that. That didn't feel very good. But I understand why Blizzard are doing a change like this. It doesn't require a massive system like roll queue, so it doesn't take a year or two to set up. This is a great way to just test if people will settle for changes and whether banning heroes out is a good idea or not. It's almost an experiment on their part, not necessarily to try the system, but to just see how the community reacts with bans as a whole. Realistically, the only thing that Overwatch needed was faster patches and quicker PTR testing onto the live servers, and more experimenting. All of these we got as well. That the hero rotation system to me felt like overkill, but over the past night or so, a lot of you guys have convinced me that it might actually be a really good idea in a lot of different ways. I sort of want to reserve judgment at least to try it out. Season 21 could be god-awful because of the heroes that are banned, but I think it's important that we don't, completely go against this whole idea. When it comes to one-tricks and this system, whilst I understand when people say that these one-tricks should play other heroes when their particular hero is banned, realistically, two things are going to happen. That person is either not going to play for a week, and plenty of people do that and feel alienated by Blizzard, which isn't a good look, or let's say a Reinhardt main gets all the way to like GM from playing Reinhardt. Yet when Reinhardt's banned, they can't really play anything else to the same level. They may refuse to play Orisa because of the bad metas that we've had in the past. But you get my point. I think that it could improve the quality of life of competitive, but it might reduce the competitive integrity of the game because people are forced to play heroes that they're not very good at, and will cause more toxicity because, I don't know, Moira gets banned, they start playing Ana or Baptiste and they don't have the same mechanical skill as they do on Moira, just as an example. It remains to be seen on whether it's going to be an amazing system or not. I think that everybody should reserve all judgment until we try it out. Like roll queue, the idea was amazing, but of course it ran into its own issues that caused more harm than good for some players, personally not me, but enough for people to see that this system wasn't the greatest thing in the world. But everything else that Jeff Kaplan said in that update was tremendous. Everything that he said, going over the philosophy, the quality of life features into the game, effectively a PTR in the live version of the game that you could try out stuff with, more patches, more interesting stuff, better content as well. We've turned ourselves away from being just a news channel to potentially commenting on a lot of different stuff. So I'm really excited for the future of Overwatch now. I think slowly but surely myself and Misko have been pulling away from the game a little bit just because there's not a lot to talk about. It's not as interesting to us as before. This has made me very keen, and I found myself playing more Overwatch now than I ever have in the past year, and we haven't even had those changes yet. I'm not going to talk for 20 minutes about my take because, like I said, I'm very undecided and I'm very open to interpretation from you guys. So if you have an opinion, even if it's like 5-6 paragraphs, I will read it if you want to put it down in the comments below. Be civil though with that discussion. Like I said, don't turn it into two tribes. There's a spectrum of differences there that we can find out about the system. But that's everything that I wanted to go over. Big news. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. See you then.